weekly segment we're called From the Desk of the Fates. And the whole idea behind this is we've gone to visit the three Fates. And they're going to gaze into their eye to see what happens to some of our favorite characters that we all love and cherish. So our inaugural edition is going to be Edd, Edd and Eddy. So it's time for the three Fates to gaze upon their all-seeing eye to see what happens to them on their path through life. And like I said, we're going to look at the classic cartoon right now, Edd, Edd and Eddy. Those dang scheming kids. So what happens to them when they grow up? The Fates have revealed all, and here's what they told us. Eddie, he was always the mastermind behind the schemes, and he remained so throughout high school, but his brilliant plan to make money is to become the star athlete and all-around popular guy. And if it wasn't for the Eds, he would have really lost the race to Kevin, who played quite a few underhanded tricks, because after that, Eddie grows up to be a total jerk. And not only that, it's the jerk of all jerks, as his schemes switch from exploiting the weak and nerdy to high school, which is what every jock does, including the recently ousted from the trio, Double D. Senior year proves to be a turning point for Eddie after the infamous plank incident, as he loses his way and spirals into self-destruction, and Eddie barely makes it across the graduation stage and turns to alcohol, dragging his crony Ed with him into the white trash hell that he finds himself in. On a desperate drug bender one day, he finds himself owned by the Canker sisters, and soon enough finds himself in jail with Ed. He becomes a pale shadow of his former self, and Ed makes Eddie his pocket bitch, and they make a name for themselves in the shady underworld of the correction system. Next, we look at Ed, the dumb one. Ed finally comes into his own in high school as he becomes Eddie's main crony. He allows himself to be used because he enjoys the power that comes with popularity. He only plays dumb to the rest of the world, but he gets to really indulge his darker side as Eddie's dirty workman. Many pranks have happened under Ed's watchful eye. Everything went well until that evening with Naz, Eddie's head cheerleader girlfriend. When Eddie begins to suspect something, Ed does the unthinkable and blames Double D, the third Ed, when Ed has been planning revenge. And this whole thing just gets crazy with Sarah and Ed, and immediately Double D is downgraded from popular kid to loser. Now there's only two. So Ed helps Eddie with the greatest scheme ever, but it's all ruined by the infamous plank incident. Ed is filled with a newfound darkness after that and begins to lead Eddie down a path of total destruction and becoming a junkie. He sets Eddie up with the Canker sisters and soon finds himself in jail, the one place he really calls home. He finally steps up to take the lead and offers Eddie two choices. You're mine or you're on your own. Now as for Double D, the smart one, he only really gets smarter and smarter over time. He follows Eddie and the Ed because, he's afraid of losing his status of popularity in high school. And he finally gets up the nerve to go out with Ed's sister Sarah, and they have a one-night stand that doesn't end too terribly well. And Sarah, she remains very tight-lipped to Ed, her brother, about, everything that happened. But Ed puts the pieces together and plans to get revenge on Double D, the man who did something with his sister and left it with a little Ed. The Naz incident proved to be Double D's total ousting from the light of the top. But he finds himself among his own kind and becomes incredibly happy and successful, even finding true love in his senior year and making a new best friend in Kevin. Not even the plank incident stopped Double D's rise to success despite the loss of Kevin. In college, Double D masters in science, marries his love, and starts his own company. And after hearing about his former best friends, how they fell into the correctional facility, Double D tries to visit every weekend, hoping to mend the past, but Edd and Eddy never show. Now Kevin, as you remember, was kind of the jerk. He remains that tough guy exterior throughout middle school, and when he finally hits high school, he tries to be something he is not, and he totally loses his popularity contest. And Naz, he loses his girlfriend to Eddie, and Kevin becomes goth and hates his life. And he's just at that dark place, and he just doesn't like it. And his hatred of Eddie leads him to create the situation where Naz would cheat on him with Ed. When Double D goes south because of the whole thing, Kevin starts to feel really bad and extends a hand of friendship. And the two end up discovering they have a lot in common, and they become great friends. Kevin even introduces Double D to his future wife. As senior year draws to a close, Kevin and Double D plan to go to college together when Kevin is struck down in death during the infamous plank incident. Now Ralph, that crazy weird foreigner guy, he's finally caught by the INS and deported to an unnamed eastern country. In his fury of, being deported, he becomes a terrorist and is currently number 3 on the FBI's most wanted and PETA's most hated list, as Ralph's choice of weapons are goats loaded with explosives. He is still considered to be armed and incredibly dangerous with not only explosive goats, but weird food he once tried to make mainstream on his short-lived cooking show, Cooking with Ralph. And to wrap it up, Johnny and Plank. Johnny always had issues. He carried around Plank everywhere he went. And as he grew up, his issues became more and more serious, but no one really paid any attention to him. Johnny began to confide in Plank all of his darkest secrets, and in high school, he is often the target of Eddie's schemes and Ed's pranks. But Johnny remains a loner, longing for Naz from afar. But then, one day, during a parent-teacher conference in his senior year, it is decided that the time has finally come to remove Plank from Johnny's side, causing the Plank incident. Unable to take the separation, Johnny loses it and goes on a murderous rampage known as the Plank incident, and he kills half the school with his bare hands, trying to get Plank back. It takes 5 SWAT teams to finally bring him down, and now he resides in the loony bin, doped up with enough medication to sedate an elephant. He beats his head on the wall and screams for Plank into the long hours of the night. And that, my friends, is what the fates have revealed about those kids from Edd, Edd and Eddy. Join us next time for another From the Desk of the Fates when we look at what happened to the Powerpuff Girls.